Okay, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen, Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wa anfa'na ma tu'allimuna wa zidna bi fadlika ilman ta'alima innaka ala kulli shay'in qadir. So it says, أخبرنا مالك. Zoom in a bit more. أخبرنا عبد الله بن بكر right, أن أباه أخبره أن الرسول. So this is Imam Malik, basically. We have to understand how close Imam Malik is to the Prophet ﷺ. So obviously he's in the same place the Prophet ﷺ was, right? And was buried. But like he's studying with all these people who are like family members or like really connected. So this is Abdullah ibn Abi Bakr ibn Amr ibn Hazm. And so like they have like a letter in their family the Prophet ﷺ wrote to them, right? And so he says narrating from his father. So he's like directly connected to these people. Like his one of his teachers is the son of the nephew of Aisha. Another one is the son of the nephew of Aisha. Another one is the this, there's it's like all these people are like super close. Like the mu'adhin in his time is like, yeah, he's been calling the adhan since the time of his dad, and that mu'adhin was calling the adhan since the time of his dad, and that person was the first person who called the adhan in Quba when the Prophet first arrived in Medina. I was like, oh man. So he's like, it's like somebody who's like talking to you about your own village, you know? And it's really funny for him because people are coming from Mecca and telling them about what the Prophet said and did in his own village. So you have to really look at Medina as a village, right? That's what how we look at it today, like a small town or village. It's like this is where everything happened. Don't come and tell me about anything. That's Imam Malik's, without being proud or without being rude, that's what Imam Malik is kind of saying to the world. And that's why everybody is going to Imam Malik to study with him. So he narrates that his father said that the Prophet um, استعمل رجلا من بني عبد الأسهل. He put somebody in charge. استعمل, not used. He made him an عامل. He made him a governor. على الصدقة, put him in charge of the zakat. فلما قدم سأله أبعرة من الصدقة فقال فغضب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى عرف الغضب في وجهه وكان مما يعرف به الغضب في وجهه أن يحمر عيناه ثم قال الرجل يسألني ما لا يصلح لي ولا له فإن منعته كرهت المنع وإن أعطيته ما لا يصلح لي ولا له فقال الرجل لا أسألك منها شيئا أبدا. So this man is put in charge of the zakat, right? So it says here, Abdullah ibn Abu Bakr ibn Amr ibn Hazm narrates that his father informed him that the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam put a man of Bani Abd al-Ashhal, Ashal, not Ash, it is Ashhal, sorry, Ashhal, in charge of the zakat. When he came, he asked him for camels for sadaqah. I said, well, you put me in charge. Can I take some myself? Right? And so this is a huge problem. Again, this is what happens in masajid, right? It's a big problem. Is, like, I'll give you an example. Once my car was overheating, okay? So I'm at the masjid. So they see the masjid as just common, like everything in the masjid is for everybody. That's not true. Things in the masjid are for people praying in the masjid, right? So there's things like general use, like, okay, but let's say, for example, like not everything can just be taken. So they just see it as it's just there. Sometimes there's a little bit of discretion, like please just take it because, you know, it's going to go off, right? Like basically you're helping the masjid because it's going to go off. The masjid is getting rid of a chair. And you're like, you don't need this chair, right? So, but I remember one scenario, like I rented chairs from the masjid. And I was just thinking to myself, is that even halal? Because in order for the masjid to do that, right, somebody has paid for these chairs for the masjid, right? So these are chairs for people to use in the masjid, things to do with the masjid. So if I'm renting this, it'll be haram for them to give me a discount, like 100%. They say, oh, but Sheikh Farid, he gives a khutbah sometimes. He's, kind of one of us. He's like part of our team. Do him a favor. That'd be haram to do it. Number one. And number two, is it even halal anyway? Like, I didn't really think about it. I was like, I don't think they can do that because it's not just stuff. So it's not a personal thing. It's not like, hey, Salah having a gathering and is cool, just takes some stuff home and he doesn't mind. It's the masjid. It's like not a person. It's a project, you know? So and that project isn't speaking vocally on behalf of itself. So you have to defend it. You have to do things like the masjid needs this and people gave money for the masjid, so it has to be used for that interests. Or, so people do these things. So he says when he came, he asked for the camels from the sadaqah, and he said, "Oh, so the messenger of Allah became so angry that the anger could be seen in his face, and the way that anger could be seen in his face was that his eyes reddened." Then he asked, "The man asks me for something that is not right for me nor for him, neither of us, right? It's not for me or him." And so again, when people give charity, let's say for example, Salah, you're walking in the masjid, and someone's like, "Hey, just want to drop off some food." So you're saying, is this for me or is this for the masjid? He said, no, it's for you. Okay, take it, Bismillah. Right? But there's two different people. There's Salah representing the masjid, and there is Salah. They're not the same person. Right? But people don't make this distinction. It's all kind of like liquid, like nebulous for them, right? It's a huge difference. Then he said, the man asks me for something that is not right for me, nor for him. If I refuse him, I detest to refuse. I don't like to be in that situation. But if I give to him, I will give to him that which is not right for me, nor for him. The man said, I will never ask you for anything of it. Right? So he says, قال محمد لا ينبغي أن يعطي من الصدقة غنيا. You can't do that. وإنما نرى أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ذلك لأن الرجل كان غنيا ولو كان فقيرا لأعطاه منها. Right? But you're not giving to him because you're connected. So again, what will happen in the masjid is like, oh, because you're one of us, right? It's like you're not one of us. Can't do that. That's totally haram. Like, oh, we're friends. Like, it's like totally wrong. Right? You got to give it to me in my capacity as being somebody else who is poor. Go ahead, Salah.
SubhanAllah, that exact scenario you mentioned actually happened where a board member used chairs and it was controversial in the community because it's like, oh, well, we were told we can't use them. But aside from that, I mean, it's obviously an issue, but like, I guess, can you not rent those chairs as public property in a way that you're like making
So,
money back for the
so,
masjid?
so the issue with Salah is like this. Like Salah, I lived a very bad life. Okay, and I say, look, I'm on my deathbed. I said, look, please, Salah, here's money. I want you to use this money for orphans. Okay. So then, and you say, which orphans for you? To say, oh, the orphans of Malacca in Malaysia. So you go and use it for orphans somewhere else. Habibi, I told you, orphans in Malacca. So on my deathbed, I gave you this money and I asked you to do something with it. And it was specific. It wasn't just general khair, you know? So here's this difference. Like, I am giving to a masjid is people praying. It is not molids. It is not child education. It is not mama and me stuff. It's people praying. What does the masjid do? Serves people who pray. So now using it for something else. So what you could do, right, in principle, and I doubt we can do that in the Shafi school because we're very strict, is you could say, look, these chairs are depreciating at a rate of X amount per day. If I rent them out, I will actually increase the money of the masjid and achieve it. But we can't do that in the Shafi school. Like you can't sell stuff that belongs to the masjid in the Shafi school. You can't say, look, we have these tables and we can actually sell them and buy more tables. You can't do that. The person bought those tables and gave it to the masjid, so they get the reward of every single time that table is used, or every single time that mushaf is used. You know? Or you decided, for example, the mushaf was there to be read in the mosque, and you decided to give it to another masjid. Can't do that. Oh, but they needed it. Go and buy the mushafs. I wanted like here's this, like a masjid has like an EIN, it's like a code, like this piece of land, this thing, I am giving you a mushaf to be read here. You can't take it somewhere else. Does that make sense? So this freedom, I believe in the Hanbali school, they have a bit more freedom in these kind of things, and you can kind of like, but what you definitely couldn't do is lend it out because that's not in the economic benefit of the masjid at all. So you have to rent it out, and it has to be equal or equivalent to the depreciation of the chairs on a daily basis. Does that make sense?
Sheikh,
Uh,
is it also like normal?
One second, Muhammad Hashid. So, Salah, does that make sense?
Not entirely. I guess, is it
So
because
the,
when
the
you say,
basic, basically, there is this
yeah,
unflexibility because you, as a board member, are representing the religious intentions of those who donated towards a mosque. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I worked for a week to get one brick to put in your masjid, and you remove the brick and put it somewhere else. You're representing this masjid, right? So your job is to defend the interests of the people, of the donors, and the people who are doing that. So you have to stick to what they want, and they can't voice it. They might not be alive. They might not be there. So you have to be very strict about it. Does that make sense? Just like with kids, you say, "Hey, free, can I borrow some money?" And I say, "Oh, I can't." "Oh, hang on a minute. My son has some money. So can I lend my son's money to you?" "No, I can't. It's haram because it's not in his financial interest." Say, "Well, Fareed, like you're the same person." "No, my son is one person. I am somebody else. I'm responsible for my son, and I can't use my son's property in any way that's not in his financial interests. I can't give it in charity. I can't lend it out. I can't do risky transactions." Does that make sense?
And if they donate by saying the masjid
Yeah,
can do with it as they need,
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fine. That's fine.
okay.
Fine.
So
Yeah,
really just about not making the assumption.
yeah, but the thing is, like,
Okay.
that's why it's masjid, or is it sadaqah? Sadaqah, do whatever you want with it, right? But masjid is like, no, like, you need
Okay,
20K
I see.
to repave the carpet, to repave this thing.
Yeah.
I want to get the edge out of every single person who steps on that floor, you know? That's what I'm trying to do. And you just did it for something else. Like, what's your problem?
Okay.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So we have to understand a waqf. Really, the way we interact with it is a financial transaction. It's like I'm dealing with, investors. That's what I'm dealing with. Between the investor and Allah is all khair. But the thing is what people do because it's religious. It's almost shahalik. Do whatever you want. It's like it's not like that. It's not like that. Or like they'll like investing the zakat. Like you can't do that. You can't invest the zakat. Like what are you doing? Like zakat, you're just a conduit. Like I gave you. Like I don't know who to give this money to, so I gave it to you to give it to them, and you invested it. You can't do that. Or you put it. I gave you a zakat and you're using it for the masjid lighting. Like what? Those are just two different things. Or I said, I want to have the ajr. I say, we need a new microphone. I'll pay for it. Bismillah. You took my money and you sent it to Ghana to help somebody build a well. Like, what are you talking about? Right? These are all, so we have to deal with it all as financial transactions, right? Financial transactions. That's how it works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, basically you can't operate on the default assumption that you can do whatever with it unless it
Yeah,
was explicitly
exactly.
given for that purpose.
It's
Yeah.
not, shughl hayy, it's not mashi halik or whatever will work. It's not like that. For example, I said, if this is for young American students. Oh, Muhammad Hasha, you can't benefit from this. Like, what? So you're not American. It's like, what? Like, you're racist. I'm not being racist. It says that the endowment is for young American Muslims. You're not a young American Muslim. You don't count. I'm sorry. There we go. End of story. That's the endowment. The endowment is girls, Muslim girls who are into golf. Oh, but it's the general thing. No, no, that's the endowment. Muslim girls who like golf. You're not a girl, you're a lady, right? And let's say, for example, you're 21, you're not a girl anymore. You don't like golf, you're not Muslim, so it doesn't count. Or Christian orphans in Taiwan. It's like you can't give it to Muslims, then can you? So, but yeah, but he needs help. It's like, yeah, but the thing is for Christian orphans in Taiwan. So he's not, right? So it's a financial transaction. I'm asking you to do something with my money. Do what I asked you to do with the money. That's all. Does that make sense? As opposed to anything. I understand the masjid, we need money. Like we have a million things. We have a anti-Halloween thing. We have this, we have that. We just need some cash, guys. Bismillah. Yeah. But that's very different to a waqf. Waqf is it stops based on a certain goal, right? It's a financial transaction. This is for Shafi'i students studying in Istanbul. Boom, that's what it's for. You're not Shafi, you can't benefit from this building. You're not in Istanbul, you can't benefit. You're not a student, you can't benefit from it. Does it make sense?
Yes.
So you have to be a pain in the neck, basically. It's very important, right? Like obviously there's a lot of people on the board who are pain in the neck in other ways, but you do have to be a pain in the neck because and you have to be like, no, we're not going to use it for that. No, we're not going to do that. Right?
I mean, the masajid are more of like a like trash dump these days where they'll just assume, oh,
Yeah,
here's a bag of clothes. They'll
yeah.
figure it out.
So how do we manage it? Do it the American way. That's what we do. Do it the American way because actually the American way is more Islamic. So you find out how does a church work? One, two, three, 5. I gave a receipt for this, right? And we're gonna have an auditor. I'm gonna pay him to $15,000 a month to audit every single thing that happens at the masjid because otherwise it will be abused. 100%. I remember this happened. There was a big, big organization like this, and it was like, show us your auditing. No answer. Okay, we will destroy you then. If you can't show us an audit, we'll destroy you because we know what's happening. Very funny things happen. Very funny things happen, right? So transparency, it's not about husn al-dhan. Husn al-dhan has no place there. No place, right? Husn al-dhan is like this. Hey, Sheikh Farid, I've been supporting you on Patreon for the last 10 years, and I found out you bought a Ferrari. I'm like, hey, have husn al-dhan. I bought it for a good reason. That's husn al-dhan, right? That's husn al-dhan. Like, hey, Sheikh Farid, why'd you have a Ferrari, right? That's husn done, like having a good opinion that, for example, okay, well, I'm supporting this person and I'm assuming they use it for whatever, right? But Khalas, you just supported the person, right? It's something else. But you are giving me money for X and I'm using it for Y. That means there has to be receipts, there has to be traceability, there has to be this, has to be that, right? And it's like, you know, everything has to be clear, right? So the easiest thing to do, honestly, and it's difficult, but the easiest thing to do is do your own thing. So look, I have my own masjid. I have my own center. I don't want any money from anybody. If you don't like what I do here, go away. That's the easiest thing. I saw that, two masjids like that in Jordan, where it's like masjid so and so. It's like some wealthy guy. He just did his own thing. There's no donations. I don't want, and there's no donation box. There's no, we need help with anything. Just do your own thing. My friend, subhanAllah, from Tajikistan, he did that. So he came to the States when he was like 14, super messed up, really difficult time managed to get through high school just about. Did nursing, got some money, started getting into business. He started buying businesses, flipping businesses, making money. So then he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Tajikistan and teach people Deen because it's such a messed up country now." So he's trying to get funding and this and that and all these things, and then he realized, "Forget it." So he just did it himself. Like, I'm just gonna make more money, and I'm gonna have my own organization and my own name, and that's it, right? Because it's just a big mess, you know. So I've heard of this also in Saudi. In Saudi, there's a big Maliki family somewhere. They have land, they have farms, and you go there and just study for free, and they're not asking anybody for anything. Fantastic, really good situation. But yeah, 100%, they need to up their game, and we just do it in a Western way. Simple as that. To say like, yeah, I'm going to file, I'm bringing the police. Say, yeah, this is all money funneling. They're sending, send it very easy. They're sending money to Palestine. That'll close the message very quickly. And then it's like, look, no one's trying to break anything, but it's like do things professionally so that people can actually support. Because people won't support if they don't trust you. They just do things in a what's it called, transparent way. Here's a receipt. Show me. Okay, I gave you this money. Show me where it went and show me what you did. And be frank. Oh, we need to charge fees. So whenever we do zakat, we charge a 10% fee. Like, whoa, that's expensive. Yeah. Why do we charge a 10% fee? Because you have to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Don't want to pay it through us? Don't give it to us. Simple as that. You know? So you can be frank, right? These are our expenses. This is what we do, but people don't do it. Go ahead, Salah.
I apologize. Does that mean that there needs to even be a distinction between what is considered operational donation versus sadaqah donation for the masjid
100%.
specifically?
100%. That's what all charities do. Are you happy for them to do this? Right?
So the
So like,
general donation box would have to specify the masjid will do what it sees fit with this.
yeah. And
Okay.
you do not, we will not accept any requests of receipts and we will not do this and we will not do that. But at the same time, you can't do that, right? So let's say, for example, I have a business. Right? Pause this now, mashallah. We're going to Reed's $1 million business. 1 second. So, and then also congregants don't pay, right? They're like, oh, everything's free. It's a masjid. No, it's not. I used to tell my masjid, I was like, guys, you should put on the door when people leaving the Jummah how much it costs for you to sit where you sat. Literally, like for you to sit where you sat, how much did it actually cost? Because everyone's like, oh, the masjid is asking for money, the masjid this, masjid that. It's like, do you realize how much it costs? You know, like, I remember like my PG&E bill once in California was $500. Like, oh my God. That was a ridiculous PG&E bill, right? You call it PG&E, Salah, in your neck of the woods? Like
No, we have
electricity,
TBA
gas.
here. PG is
Anyway,
all the way.
Anyway, so anyway, like my electricity and gas, like $500. Can you imagine what a masjid is going to be then? Like we're talking about probably $3,000, $4,000 electricity bill. But you need to show people, look, we just paid $4,000. We got in $500 and we're paying out $5,000. Where is it coming from? Right? So you have to say, look, there are certain people in the community who are forking out thousands of dollars on a monthly basis just for you to sit in AC when the Jummah is going, when the khutbah is going, right? So, be aware, like, oh, don't just give $1 because that's actually nothing. It actually costs probably like $20 each or more for each person. In order for you to have a Jummah, it's like $20, $30 each. So then it's like, oh, pay for what you're getting because there's no organized, the government's not paying for this. This is just us. So we should be like, look, everybody pay, you know, for iftar. It's either sponsored or you got to pay for it, right? And there we go. It's like, oh, dude, it costs $10. Like, yeah, that's what a meal costs in California. It's not free, you know? And so like people also, so being transparent, then you can like say, look, this is the situation, but you're not transparent, and it's all fishy and it's all this and it's all that, right? So yeah, I don't believe in any of it. I think it's very, very bad. Wallahu alam. So anyway, so here's a scenario going back to this hadith. Could you be paid? Yes, you could, right? So Salah, for example, what is your current job, Salah, besides being a full-time model?
SubhanAllah. Sorry, were you trying? Did you mean to record again? Because I think you stopped recording.
I am recording you.
Oh, okay.
Do you mind?
Oh, I thought you stopped recording. I don't know. You started
No, no,
again. My
yeah.
bad.
No, so what is
Uh,
your job right now? What is your full-time job?
Engineer. I'm better engineer.
An engineer, software engineer or actual engineer?
Actually, embedded systems, hardware, firmware,
Embedded
software.
systems. Okay. So you can imagine you do your same job, okay? And you could look at different companies doing the same job and there'll be a kind of salary bracket, right, for your job. So now you're doing the same job for this huge masjid, okay, for their zakat distribution, okay? And you're working for not just the masjid, actually for government. You come to Malaysia, for example, you go to a Muslim country, Saudi or something like that, and you're going to work for the Saudi government, okay, doing the same job. So now we're going to say, aha, you say, can I have money, please? Yes, you can. Can you receive zakat? Yes, you can. So your salary could come from zakat because the government themselves says, we are in charge. This is the Amir, right? The ruler, Muslim ruler. We're in charge of collecting zakat and we're distributing it to you. We're not giving you a salary outside of that. We are giving you a salary based on based on what's it called? What you would normally earn in that kind of thing. So look at that. Here's a salary bracket for the service you're doing in distributing or collecting or managing zakat, and you are in the category of wal amilina alayha. Okay, the people who are working in zakat collecting, distribution, organization, software management, auditing, whatever it is. Okay, so you could be paid that from the government. So the government will take money from zakat and give it to you, and it could be a ridiculously high amount because you are a very, very high paid individual, or it could be less. It's not based on you're not receiving as a poor person. You're receiving as a worker. So going back to this hadith, this man could ask to receive it in that point of view. So he's not asking, just give me zakat, just give me. He could say, oh, you put me in charge. What's my salary then? Does that make sense? And he can eat in the Shafi school, he can even be non-Muslim. You can even be a non-Muslim. So you hired this top, let's say AI guy who's working trying to crack some kind of management in zakat in Saudi, and he's used to being paid 500,000 a year. That's his salary. He can actually receive that in zakat. So zakat money is being collected in Saudi and given to this non-Muslim because he's amilina alayha working towards that. Does that make sense? But can a masjid in the US do that? No, because you're not the wali al-amr. You're not in charge. So this is another thing they do. They make themselves like we are the grand this. You're not. You don't have that authority. You can't. You don't have the luxury of doing those things. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah, sure. A quick question.
And then go ahead, Asan. Yes, it says, is the collected zakat joined with Islamic government treasury and Beit
Yeah,
al-Mal thing? Uh, it's not the same thing now. So Beit al-Mal comes from other things. It's not the same.
okay. So it's distinguished so that the recipients are the 8 recipients
Yeah.
zakat.
So Beit
Okay.
al-Mal, for example, Beit al-Mal might, for example, pay support. So could the Khalifa receive zakat if he doesn't have a job? Yes. So, but the default is the treasury of Beit al-Mal will pay the Khalifa's salary, right? And so key concept as well, no Muslim ruler should ever be wealthy, right? So when you look at Muslim rulers, like, whoa, ridiculously wealthy, like how on earth did you become wealthy? Okay, let's not pick on the Muslim world, like King Charles. How on earth did you become wealthy? Like, there's no reason for that, right? So a Khalifa, a teacher, a physician, street cleaner, it's all the same. You are fulfilling a communal obligation. You receive what you need to receive, and that's it. There's no reason why the ruler should be wealthy at all. It's just indicative of mass cross-generational corruption, right? That's what it's indicative of, right?
Sheikh, can I ask another question regarding Waqf?
Yeah.
So actually, there was a real life incident in our state in the 1950s. A person gave some land as Waqf to a college.
Yes.
Giving Waqf to a college and masjid are different, or
They're the
same
same.
rules apply?
Same. As long as
Yeah.
it's halal, it could
So
be, for example, as long as it's halal. So we that's
yeah,
what
yeah,
we want. So as long as it's halal. So you
yeah.
can't do an endowment to a church or to a nightclub or something like that. But you can say, for example, this is for Russian Pokemon fanatics. This building I have, any Russian who visits Kuala Lumpur and he's into Pokemon, he can come and stay here for free. That's halal, right? So
No,
that's it.
yeah.
So anything that's halal
So
could be, a college, for example, it's not even women's studies. In the University of Jordan, there's a huge building called for women's studies. So you just made it endowment. This is for women's studies student, people studying an undergrad in women's studies. Anything that's halal.
yeah, and what happened was the college eventually sold those properties to many other families, uh, around 600 families. There's a
Hmm.
huge plot. And recently, the Waqf board, they kind of registered that land as Waqf, and they said it cannot be sold by the college. But it became a huge national issue. It went to the
Yeah.
court
So
because
so in the Shafi school, as I mentioned, there's very little what's it called? Flexibility with these things. You can't do that. So in the Hanbali school, you can. So you can imagine, for example, there is a masjid, okay? There's a masjid, and it has, for example, 4 acres, okay? And it has a building on it. And the building is totally destroyed and it cannot be used. So now the nadir, the person responsible for the executor, you can say, of the endowment of the waqf, he says, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to sell off 2 acres of the land, okay, so that I can rebuild the masjid so people can pray in it. Can you do that? The Shafi school, you cannot do that, right? But I believe in the Hanbali school you can, and I'll double check. So my uncle, for example, that was his job for the University of Oxford. He would manage, well, I mean, one of the people managing the assets that University of Oxford had. So is it worth selling or should we keep it? So how to manage these things, right? And so there could be a reason for that, but the point is you can't do things for favors. You couldn't sell it ever for less than its market value, and it can only be in the financial and what's it called? Project, in favor of the project of the thing. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to have people pray. Well, people can't pray because the masjid is broken to pieces and you can't pray in it. Okay, so how are we going to get the money? We can't get the money. Okay, well, let's sell some of the masjid in order to fix the rest of it. Does that make sense?
yeah, understood.
So,
And
so, so in
so
the so
according
again in the
to
Shafi, go ahead.
according to Hanbali thing,
There is
if
room for that. There is room for that. Yeah.
room for that, okay, okay. And so
Yeah. But
if it is for the favor of the college,
yes.
for this
Yeah.
case scenario,
Yeah. But the
yeah,
thing
the
is, again,
court actually ruled like that.
all of these issues, again, endowments, there's going to be under a law that dictates that. So in a Muslim country, right, let's say in Saudi, for
Okay.
example, or in Jordan, there's going to be a law, and that law will follow a certain code, right? And so you have to abide by that code. And so if you can imagine, for example, if you're in a certain area, like, this happened actually in Tarim. The country, the government, they wanted to move a road, and they said you can't move the road. This is a, it's a sacred thing. You can't actually move it. And there's certain things you cannot actually do. So my point is there's it's when you're dealing with Muslim countries and you're dealing with endowments, there's a system that's supposed to go through, right? And it's not, for example, okay, I'm running a masjid, I can do this and do that. Let's ask this sheikh and ask that sheikh. In a Muslim country, there's a system, right? And so I'm sure there is even the Indian government, they will defer that this is
Yeah,
a
we have
religious
we
endowment.
have a waqf law. Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
waqf law,
yeah,
and the court ruled that because it is a college, it is not a religious endowment. That is what the court ruled, and they have actually amended the bill so that they can include
good.
non-Muslims in the waqf board and stuff like that. It got
Yeah.
really bad. Yeah,
Yeah, but
understood.
the issue is I'm sure there's criterions. If you ask a Hanbali, I'm sure there's criterion because again, I died. I was on my deathbed, okay, and I said I want this money. Like I really believe in education, and I want the ajr of people who do education. I want the edge. I really believe in, for example, Pokemon. Like I think it's really good for people. So I said Pokemon cards. Like I want the edge of all the kids and adults who received happiness by playing Pokemon, right? Or collecting Pokemon cards. So now you change that. You know what I'm saying? Like I gave you money to do A. Why did you do B? So there's a big difference between you changing, like selling this endowment, right? Versus achieving my goal in a different way. For example, selling part of the masjid to rebuild the rest of the masjid. Does that make sense? So it can't just be whatever. You can't just say it's not religious, therefore you can do whatever you want. Does that make sense? So
Understood.
there has to be a logic. Like the school said, look, the school had to close down. The only way the school could keep going is by selling that land, right? As opposed to something else, right? Because again,
Can such
we're talking about like I'm trying to get as many good deeds as I can by doing khair. Don't stop me. That's the way we have to look at it. Like, don't stop me doing khair. That's the whole idea of waqf. Like, it's stopped. Yeah, you've blocked this money and you've made it do one particular good deed for as long as that thing lasts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Can such a sale be cancelled because the rules for it, or
100%.
the sale is the same?
Because you
Okay.
100% because for a valid sale, you have to have ownership, and you don't have ownership. So the executors or the people who are responsible for an endowment don't own the endowment, right? They can only use the endowment in the interests of the endowment. Does that make sense? That's just like, for example,
Yeah,
I give,
understood.
my son, for example, has gold bullion, and I give you some gold, or he has cash and I give it to you. It's haram and invalid. The gift doesn't count. You have to give the money back and say, Freed, it doesn't count. It's actually your son's because I don't own my son's money. I'm just in charge of my son's money. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Understood.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on, inshallah. Okay. So then it says, باب الرجل يكتب إلى رجل يبدأ به. Right, so again, these are miscellaneous topics. So it says here, Bab الرجل, so it says, a man writing to another man and beginning with the other. أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا عبد الله بن دينار عن عبد الله بن عمر رضي الله عنه أنه كتب إلى أمير المؤمنين عبد الملك يبايعه فكتب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أما بعد لعبد الله بن عبد الملك أمير. Then we go on to next page is here. Let's follow up here. Find these images. 394, where is this? 396, and 7, and 8. I think guys are trying to open the right document. I think I'm missing a page. One second, I don't actually have this image here. 394.
I found it in the message. Can't find it.
Can you just send it to me again?
Yeah,
I'm
let me
just
send it to you.
no.
See if you have it.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, أمير المؤمنين من عبد الله بن عمر سلام عليك فإني أحمد الله إليك الذي لا إله إلا هو أقر لك بالسمع والطاعة على سنة الله وسنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فيما استطعت. So this is who's it? Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, was it? He says here he says Abdul
Yeah, it's
Malik.
Abdul Malik bin Marwan.
Yeah. So he says Malik informed us from Abdullah ibn Dinar, who informed us that Abdullah ibn Umar wrote to the Amir al-Mu'mineen Abdul Malik to pledge allegiance to him, and he wrote, "In the name of Allah, the All." So what does that even mean, pledging allegiance? That's on an individual level. And it's also on a societal level. So on an individual level, that's you doing it. Okay, what does it mean that Farid Dingle does it? Meaningless. What does it mean that, for example, the Sheikh of the tribe of Bani Sakhar, for example, in Jordan, you've got Bani Sakhar and Bani Hassan, these huge big tribes. These are what's called Ahlul Hilli wal Aqd. So Ahlul Hilli wal Aqd, all the insignificant people, right? So we have to understand that democracy in Islam is a bit like Plato's understanding of democracy. Plato did not believe that women should vote. Plato did not believe that non-Athenians should vote. They didn't believe that non-landlords should vote. It's the significant people who own stuff and have political weight. So male citizens who own property, right? That's what I recall from Plato's concept of democracy. It's a similar thing in the Islamic paradigm. So when you say, for example, so and so, he's the ummah has given him bay'ah. What does it mean? Every single person, majority vote? No, what it means is the significant leaders, right? Leaders are the smaller leaders. They give bay'ah to him, and everybody who's under them is represented by them. Does that make sense? That's Islamic democracy, or at least historically speaking. Okay, that's what's happening. So here, You're saying, look, on an individual level, I'm giving you bay'ah, right? But was he in charge of anybody? Don't think so, right? He's not in charge of anybody else, right? As opposed to the sheikh of this tribe, the leader of this area, you know. And so again, like in England, that's what used to happen. You know, like, you know, the king, here the baron of so and so, the earl of so and so. So like you don't ask for every single person from Manchester to come and give bay'ah to you, and you don't care what they say. But the Baron of Manchester, the Earl of Manchester, the whatever, the people who represent this area, he comes and pledges allegiance to the king, right? That means that whole area is under the king, right? That's what it means. So anyway, the point is, it says when he wrote this letter, he said, quote, "In the name of Allah, all merciful, the most merciful, to the slave of Allah, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan." So he started with his name, right? So you start with the person's name and then you sign so and so. From Abdullah ibn Umar, peace be upon you, I praise before you, I praise Allah to you, praise Allah before you, that there is no God but Him, and I confirm that to you, my hearing and obedience. I give bay'ah to you. According to the Sunnah of Allah and the Sunnah of Messenger of Allah, as much as I am able. Meaning, so this is conscription. This means that I accept you as my ruler. If you tell me to build a bridge, I'll do it. If you ask me to go to war, I'll do it. If you tell me to do something that is permissible or sunnah, it now becomes obligatory. Right? That's the significance. So, for example, I'm in Jordan. Jordanian law dictates that you wear a seatbelt. Okay, I have to wear a seatbelt. Whereas I'm in the States, I mean, unless I want to get a ticket, unless I want to die, or unless it's going to cause a problem, I don't have to wear a seatbelt because I'm not morally bound. It's just practically bound. So in a non-Muslim country, it's a practical thing. You know, Muhammad Hashir doesn't want to keep to university rules. He can just leave, right? They'll kick him out. Right. So when you, for example, enter America or enter a country like that, that's a practical and legal binding. But with a Muslim ruler, it's a practical, legal, and moral binding. Like you actually have to do it. Right? Unless it's ridiculous. For example, Muhammad Hashir becomes the Khalifa. And he says, today is Muhammad Hashir Day. Everybody has to get pictures of me and put it on the t-shirts. Right? Do you have to do that? No, you don't. Because that's just silly. Right? So no one's obliged to do that. قال لا بأس إذا كتب رجل إلى صاحبه أن يبدأ بصاحبه قبل نفسه. Right? Who said there's no harm when a man writes to his correspondent if he begins with a correspondent before himself. وعن عبد الرحمن ابن أبي الزناد عن أبيه عن خارجة ابن زيد بن ثابت أنه كتب إلى معاوية بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لعبد الله معاوية أمير المؤمنين من زيد بن ثابت ولا بأس بأن يبدأ الرجل بصاحبه قبل نفسه في الكتاب. So he said, so Abd al-Rahman Ibn Zinad narrates from his father from Kharija. Kharija, the son of Zayd ibn Thabit, was one of the Fuqaha Sab'a. Right, these are the great Fuqaha Sab'a who narrates from Zayd ibn Thabit, who wrote to Muawiyah saying, "In the name of Allah, O most compassionate, to the slave of Allah, Muawiyah, from Zayd ibn Thabit." Muhammad said, "There's no harm if a man starts with his correspondent before himself in writing." And then seeking permission. Right? And this applies to many things, and this is a very important concept. And so that what's the whole idea here is the sanctity is not things like masjids and imams. So there's many people, they think like, you know, a religious person is sacred, but no one else is sacred. A religious woman is sacred, and a non-religious woman is not sacred, right? That's not true, right? So sanctity is everywhere. Right? Everything is sacred. And what does it mean when you say, for example, Azhar, you speak Urdu?
A bit, yes.
A bit, okay. Sister Amina, are you there? Okay, can you hear me, Sister Amina? No, she's not there. But anyway, Salah, what's the word for respect in Arabic? How do you say respect him or respect yourself or respect?
I don't know.
Have you heard this from احترم نفسك?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So احترام. احترام. Ihtiram is from the word hurma, sanctity, sanctity. So you can imagine there's all these sacred things around you, okay? They all have sacred values. That sacred value will come to you if you do ihtarama. Ihtarama means to receive the sanctity of something, right? So if you can imagine, like, if you touch this thing, it will give you 10 points. If you touch that thing, it will give you 15 points. If you give that 100 points. But you will only receive its hurma if you do ihtarama. So that's how things work. You respect Allah, you benefit from Allah. You respect your parents, you benefit from your parents. You respect your pen, you respect your car, you respect your desk, you respect your shoes. They all have this sanctity. They all have this hurma. And you can now absorb that sanctity by doing ihtiram. So the only person you're harming when you don't respect yourself, you don't respect other people, you don't respect other things, you don't respect trees, plants, cars, um, if you don't respect a broken chair, is the only person who you're harming is
Yourself.
Yourself.
yourself. You are blocking the benefit. So if I don't show respect to Salah, I'm blocking the benefit that Salah has. This is how we have to see things. So in the Jahiliyyah, the way they see things is there's only a few things that have hurma points. For example, there's only certain times of the year where certain things are haram. Only if you have to enter ihram, now you can't do this. The Kaaba, the this or that. There's certain things, but we see everything as holy. We see everything as sacred. Every single thing is inviolable, right? So again, there's a lady walking down the street half naked. You show respect to her by looking away. Her sanctity, she has a sanctity, comes to you, you benefit from that. If you look at her, you block that sanctity, right? There's a chair, for example, and you just break it for no reason. There's a sanctity coming from it, and you just blocked that sanctity. Does that make sense? So this is this idea. So, respecting, for example, space. I'm on my phone, I'm sitting next to Salah, and Salah looks at my screen. So my screen was emitting hurma, sanctity, and now he's blocked to say, bro, don't look at my stream without permission, right? Like, you shouldn't unless I'm showing you something, or unless you wouldn't mind, right? So this is what we're doing. There's all these things. So whenever you do ihtarama, you're absorbing the hurma of things. Whenever you don't do ihtarama, you're blocking the hurma of things, right? Does that make sense? And so this is a really important thing. You know that hadith, what is it? The hadith, what's it called? I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I asked you for food, you didn't feed me. I was thirsty. I was sick, you didn't visit me. Everyone knows that hadith?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Salah, you familiar with the hadith?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So this is a like incredibly important hadith, right? So, if you can imagine a situation, right? Here's a situation. If you think about, like, let's say respect, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you in Judgment Day, I was vulnerable and you took advantage of me. And you're like, "Yeah, how are you vulnerable, Allah?" Like, he said, well, here's this woman walking down the street half naked, and she was vulnerable. Society made her do it. Her own nafs made her do it. She made herself vulnerable, right? Like a half naked woman walking down the street is like a drunk woman. If you wanted to, you could sleep with her. She wouldn't care. She wouldn't even notice what's going on. So she's in a vulnerable situation, right? So you look away, right? Or you don't look away. There's an image on a, whatever board or whatever on a screen or something like that. And you looked away, you're respecting her, right? If you look at it, you're disrespecting her. You're taking advantage of the situation, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say, right? I was vulnerable. I was naked. I was in a situation where you could abuse me visually or physically, and you did it. You're like, yeah, Allah, how could I visually or physically abuse you? Say, well, had you looked away, you would have respected me. And if you looked, you're disrespecting me. So the only way that you can feed Allah, quote unquote, or help Allah, quote unquote, or disrespect Allah, quote unquote, or be cruel to Allah, quote unquote, is by being cruel to people. So, or being respecting people, or helping people, or looking after the keyboard properly, you know? And so every single thing is like Allah with a mask on in reality. That's all it is. It's like the khalq is the mask of the khaliq. And he just puts up these things like, you know, we do sujood to Allah by doing sujood to the Kaaba. We respect Allah by respecting things like mushaf, like property, like someone else's property, like that. We show loyalty to Allah by being loyal to other people. There's no other way, right? There's no other way to be loyal to Allah without, like, you know, so like being loyal to the people. That's what it is, right? We basically worship Allah through things and people. That's how we do it. So then what happens is the people and the things block us from Allah. And we end up doing things like, for example, you know, you're in a Quran class and you see like Ahmad was here. Like, who scribbled Ahmad was here on the table, for crying out loud? They're like, I don't know, I was bored. But they don't see the sanctity of the table. They understand the sanctity of the mushaf, but they understand the sanctity of the table. But it's one thing, right? It's one thing. Right? It's one thing. And so you can't see that, or like the sanctity of this irreligious woman, the sanctity of this drunk man, the sanctity of your bad husband, the sanctity of your oppressive parents. You can't see it because it's so dense, right? It's just so hard to like see things, right? The sanctity of Donald Trump, right? So there's certain things you can say about Donald Trump and things you can't, because he actually does have a sanctity, you know? The sanctity of a pig. Like you couldn't torture a pig to death. You could sooner to kill a pig, but you can't torture it because it has a sanctity, the sanctity of a cockroach, right? Everything is sacred. And so you can't see it, and then you yourself are harmed by it, right? So here's this thing, it's a simulation. Allah's going to say, look, I'm going to play this game with you where I'm going to pretend I'm vulnerable and I pretend that you could violate my privacy, okay? And I need you to not do it. It's like, oh, sure, easy. So it's just a game, right? It's just a kind of a, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put us in this world and He's put someone's doors open or whatever it is, or privacy, right? And that the only way that you can respect Allah's privacy, not that He has actual privacy, is by respecting other people's privacy, right? And if you don't respect people's privacy, then you're just not respecting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the same thing. There's no difference, right? Everyone's following me? So the key thing is not, you know, there's a saying, there's some kind of aphorism, Indian aphorism, is that the hand that is pointing to the moon is not the moon. So if you think about like the cow in Hindu culture, right? The cow itself becomes sacred. It's like, okay, it's not. Okay, well, can I abuse the cow then? No. But by showing respect and appreciation for the cow, that's how you show respect and appreciation to Allah. So the cow is not God. The Mus'haf is not God. The Kaaba is not God. Your parents are not God. But you can only show that to them when you see that. So the problem then is what? Is when you no longer see what's happening. Oh, it's just my husband being annoying. Just my wife being annoying. Just my little brother being immature again. You know? When you don't see Allah through the mask. That's the problem. Right? That's the problem. Does that make sense, guys? Or through the bill, I have to pay a bill, like I have to pay a, you know, pay a phone bill or something like that. So you don't see, it's like you don't see it as Allah. So then it just becomes pointless. Like I just lost money. I had to pay this ridiculously large phone bill, like for no reason. They miscalculated, I don't know, or I missed my flight. So not seeing Allah through things, this is the problem that makes things messy and weird and confusing. So anyway, so it says here, أخبرنا مالك أخبرنا صفوان بن سليم عن عطاء بن يسار, gap in the chain, مرسل عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم سأله رجل فقال يا رسول الله أستأذن على أمي, do I need to take permission to go into my mom's room? قال نعم. قال رجل إني معها في البيت, I live with her. قال استأذن عليها. قال إني أخدمها, sometimes I need to do things for her. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أتحب أن تراها عريانة, you want to see her naked? قال لا. قال إن استأذن عليها, right? So, right. So Malik informed us from Safwan ibn Sulaim, who informed us from Ata ibn Yasar Tabi'i, who said from somebody that the Prophet ﷺ was asked by man, O Messenger of Allah, should I seek permission when I go into where my mother is? I go into her room. And he said, yes. He says, I'm in the house with her. Why do I have to do that? And the Prophet ﷺ said, seek permission. And then she said, oh, but I serve her, Ya Rasulullah. It's kind of awkward. He said, seek permission. He said, do you want to see her naked? They know. Okay, then seek permission. Right? And so this is, again, it's not about respecting people. It's about respecting Allah. Right? قال محمد بهذا نأخذ الاستئذان حسن وينبغي أن يستأذن رجل على كل من يحرم عليه النظر إلى عورته ونحوها. Right? Right? So privacy is a really important thing. I'm not going to go to the next thing, but Imam Muhammad says, people you should ask. You should seek permission. You should seek permission for anybody that there might be something private or something nakedness or anything like that. Anything that's private, you should ask, right? For example, I want to know the time, so I tap Salah's phone to see the time. It's like, bro, there might be a private message. Oh, I didn't think about that. Well, think about it because Salah is sacred and his privacy is sacred. And subhanAllah, when those of you who listen to my class on marriage, I did that, how to get married in Islam class. SubhanAllah, one of the things that, I kind of like added to the list of rights of husband and wife is privacy, right? That if there's a divorce and all that, like 100% you have a right to privacy. Two people get divorced and they start sharing stuff, intimate things or private things about each other with other people. Like that's super really bad thing to do. Really, really bad thing to do. Right? So then you meet Allah, and you say, oh, I was intimate with you. And then you shared things about in my intimacy and my vulnerability. And they say, Ya Allah, how could you ever be intimate with me? How could I share things about things that you're not comfortable about? Say, well, had you not divulged certain things about your ex-wife or your ex-husband, right? You would have not done that to me. And so basically every single thing is Allah behind a mask. هذا خلق الله. This is the active creating of Allah. Every single thing in front of you. Every single thing is an active creating of Allah. It's just a mask that represents Allah. And for you to interact with Allah in the right or the wrong way with that, through that thing. So may Allah help us remember that and remind ourselves of that and keep that in mind, about the sanctity of other things. Right? Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilaik.